back yet again, you know. So on this one, we're going to be looking at Batman appearing in the movies in the mid 90s, you know. So we're starting off with like Batman Forever, you know, Batman and Robin that came out in 2 years after. And then also we talk about SubZero, which this one was put on direct to video, you know. So definitely, you know, if you are a fan of Batman and you do love like DC comics, you know, superheroes or comic books, like, comment, share, and subscribe. You know, I would love to know your thoughts about, you know, these Batman movies. But with that being said, let's get this video away. So, Batman Forever really stormed the theaters in the summer of 1995. Came out to such a big, it's one of those times when like especially the superhero films, because there wasn't that much of. This came out to such a big blockbuster, you know, and as big as the first film, but like it really broke records at that time. Yeah, and alongside that, just people just didn't really get, the whole Batman Returns thing. It's like, again, stylistically it looked good, but just compared to the first one, it just didn't have a strong, narrative, to get this sequel. So the choice was that Tim Burton and also Michael Keaton didn't come back for this third film, So in replacement, you get Joel Schumacher, who directed a few films, which I actually like, Falling Down, The Time to Kill, Phone Booth. He is a real proven director. And then you have Val Kilmer replacing Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne Batman. Now, this is a film you will get very different opinions, depending who you talk to. As a kid, I remember having the VHS cassette of Batman Forever and also having the video game, which was for Super Nintendo. So I used to think like Batman Forever was like definitely superior to the Tim Burton movies. In mind, we definitely, this version of Batman is this is veered more to the kids. This is a PG movie. They really went so much out of their way to line it up from the sequel, from the last installment, Batman Returns, because it's all set in the same universe. Even if it's different directors, different actors change, it's meant to be a sequel to Batman Returns. And I just believe it's like, as bad as the story was in Batman Returns, this really has just some jumbled up story that really doesn't mean anything. They go a step further and add even more characters than even Batman Returns. Like here you now have Robin, you got Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, you got Riddler, Jim Carrey, and you got like Nicole Kidman, Chase Meridian. And you got to keep in mind at this time, as I've talked about, like The Mask and also Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, Jim Carrey was on fire at this time. He was the number one comedian, pretty much in the early to mid '90s. He was really in. There was nowhere you couldn't go without seeing Jim Carrey. So the version of Riddler that you get in this is like Jim Carrey, who is really turned up, as he was even in these movies at the same time. He delivers like a hyper energetic performance that I think sometimes kind of hurts the film. I think what the tone they went for, it works, but for a Batman film, I think it's too much Jim Carrey than what the Riddler character is originally depicted to be. So you have that issue, and you also have the issue of like Tommy Lee Jones, who's playing Two-Face. Somehow they're working together, and the Two-Face, again, is not really faithful to the interpretation of like how he was presented in the comics. It doesn't really explain the backstory too well of like why he is Two-Face, why he has this big vendetta, against Batman. They show like a little scene of like when they throw the acid, on Harvey Dent to become Two-Face, but there's no really in depth, and Two-Face and Riddler, they just act like versions of Jack Nicholson's Joker. It's just like it's just two versions of two now, other than like the original one, but it's just so much goofy and campiness, from the main villains. And also even just the character design, just like they redesigned the Batmobile. This is where they added the infamous bat nipples into the suits. It's like as much as they say like Tim Burton's things were stylish, more style than substance, the designs were at least faithful. The Batmobile, the Batwing, the Batsuit, that's how Batman would, appear. In this one, it's like they were designed pretty much to just like get more merchandise and sell more toys, which is even more shown in the next one. Is if there's a word I can really describe Batman Forever, it's cheesy or goofy. I remember the scene when like Robin is driving the Batmobile, and like he saves this girl, and the girl's like, "Doesn't Batman get to kiss the girl?" All this like cheese, or like I see Robin at the end when they're about to fight Riddler and Two Face, in the film's climax, and he's like, "Holy rusted metal, Batman." There's just so much cheese that I just don't think like that it would be acquainted with Batman. You know what I mean? There's scenes where Batman even like strikes a pose. He puts his thumb up or he smiles. It's not that kind of like sinister smile like don't fuck with me. It's just like it just feels like it's a film that's so aimed towards kids that it doesn't really justify why they went. I mean, this is the know what I mean. And honestly, I've just looked at Batman Forever as like really the start of like where the series started to weaken. You know. So like Batman Forever, if I was a kid, I'd probably rank this higher, but I think this is where it started to go down. I would give Batman Forever it's like a 2.5 out of 5. I significantly think this is weaker than Returns. You know what I mean? Because at least the score, even the score, was way better in the Tim Burton films. This one it just makes it more it's more kinder. It's more of a kinder, softer Batman that's in this movie, and I just think it wouldn't appeal to diehard Batman fans. This movie really puts it down to the bottom of the ocean. This is the Titanic sinking, plummeting, you know. For every like thing that was at least okay in Batman Forever. As I said, it's a more like soft and kind approach to Batman, with Joel Schumacher being in here. They take it to the extreme level of just aiming this completely towards kids. Even Chris O'Donnell, who plays Robin in this, he even says that it felt like this movie was like for a toy commercial, and that's the theme they play in this movie. In this one, again, they have a wide amount of characters, So in this one, George Clooney now takes over the role of Val Kilmer, Chris O'Donnell back as Robin. You got Poison Ivy played by Uma Thurman, and you got Arnold Schwarzenegger playing Mr. Freeze, and Clueless's Alicia Silverstone playing Batgirl. You also got appearance of like, I don't know what the heck was that for Bane. After recently watching this, because I watched Forever and Robin back to back, with Batman and Robin, as anyone who is a diehard Batman fan, this is not something you can just like go in and just invest. I when I watched this, I just was always thinking of something else. When I watch this, what I mean. It's just something you can just. It's the type of movie that is so bad it's good. So you just watched it because this is a piece of shit movie, but you're just watching it just for like entertainment. Is it that bad? It truly is. It really comes down from the top, because you got Joel Schumacher, who I just believe he wasn't the right director to succeed Tim Burton as Batman. George Clooney playing Batman, he delivers a performance that he just doesn't feel like he's even there. It's legit just George Clooney putting on a Batman suit. He doesn't capture any of the emotions, because I will say in Batman Forever, there was some scenes with Val Kilmer that actually showed like, the past trauma, like how the parents affect him dealing with like this new partner with in Robin. But there is none of that in this, and this it's just man, there's no story, even just the designs, really carrying that theme from Batman Forever. You just see like what they do to the Batmobile, even just the whole Gotham City. It feels like it's this like it feels like in some ways it's like Metropolis, for Superman. You have these like high, buildings, with like It has these designs of like, a lion or a cheetah, all these kind of uh designs that you would see in the museum in on the actual architecture, of the city. And I just never got it, honestly. And this is similar, like as a kid I always thought like this was the shit. I went to cinema to watch this, but watching this as an adult, man, it's just very hard to stay in attention. There's so much consistent errors in this film, like, oh my gosh. And one thing that comes to mind is I remember when Batman actually takes down Mr. Freeze. It just shows a scene of Batman soaring to Mr. Freeze, and Mr. Freeze is like, uh oh. And then he takes it down and it shows a scene of Batman and Mr. Freeze is on the ground defeated. I'm just like, what the fuck is in it? Why did you need to include this? As underwhelming as the ending is in Batman Forever, I think the shit that happens in Batman and Robin is it's a complete joke, and oh my gosh, it's just not a Batman film you need to watch, So, man, Batman and Robin, I was kind enough to give like Batman Forever like a 2.5 out of 5. I gotta give this, and I don't think I've ever scored anything so low, man. I gotta give this like a 0.5, out of 5. It's yeah, it's not, this has no rewatchability. It's not a movie you could look like, okay, maybe if I did this I could change anything. It is the drizzling shits. It's completely trash. So trash that at this time they killed the franchise. You know what I mean? Like I said, luckily superhero films reemerged like later, and it's like we did get like the Batman films later in the road, but because of this stopped superhero films for a while, and you could think fucking Batman and Robin because of that. So yeah, 0.5, that's even lenient just because I'm in a good mood. Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, which originally was meant to come out 1997, the same year as Batman and Robin, to kind of tie in with, Mr. Freeze character, but it was released a year after, just to kind of calm all the storm, the negative press that that movie got, and this film is a very cool film. Um, it was the right thing to put this to direct to video. I mean, I think they learned from the first putting Mask of the Phantasm. Putting this to direct to video is really cool. And what I love is again they really heighten it for like a more kind of cinematic scope. They have a lot of like 3D visuals inside here, especially like what I love is when Robin is chasing Barbara Gordon after she's been captured by Mr. Freeze and henchmen. You got a nice, like, really cool scene, like on the road, where they're chasing, Dick Grayson's on the motorbike. Really focuses on the characters who are central to the plot, which is Batman, Robin, and also Batgirl in this movie. It's not like a movie that's just dominated with the villains as Tim Burns one does, and it's like you get a real cool story of like Batman even and that Robin kind of doing that detective work, and Barbara Gordon trying to get away from the villain who Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze, who was so excellent in the animated series, especially from his debut appearance in Heart of Ice. They bring that kind of tone from those episodes that Mr. Freeze appeared into this movie, and I've always loved just Sub Zero, but the DC animated movies, so like definitely like Sub-Zero, man, for sure, definitely better forever, far better than Batman Robin. I would give Sub-Zero a 4 out of 5. So yes, folks, again, man, I really appreciate watching this. For any Batman fans, again, leave your comments. What you think about these films. On the next one, I'll be looking at. This is one I'm really excited to look at. I'll be looking at the Christian Nolan films. Which really dominate like the 2000s. Starting off with Batman Begins, the Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. So you'll definitely want to check that one out. So yes, man. Definitely stay tuned for the next Batman film reviews. And we are out.